Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming back to the Citrine Path. Today, again, we have myself, Amber, and my amazing co-host.
And I'm Patsy from Violet Elements. Before we get started here, we just want to share real quick that this is our journeys and our guest journey on their spiritual life and their herbal life. So, everything we talk about here, we do recommend you do your own research and definitely talk to your provider before you start any herbal remedies or home remedies.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another Citrine Path episode. So today, I don't know if you guys can see him, but we got our very first guest speaker with us today. And we are going to be talking about forest bathing and earthing. How you doing this morning, Mama?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm excited that I get to hang out with little Mr. Riverman.
He
He's so stinking cute.
is pretty stinky cute.
Yeah.
You want to say anything, little dude? No? Made a few words. All right, Mama. Well, I'm excited to hear about your forest bathing information that you found out and hear about everything.
Yes. So, kind of how we were talking about on the last episode about how plants technically ground themselves with their roots and how adding copper wire and stuff around them and in the ground like enforces that or magnifies that groundation and changes the magnetic pole of the dirt. It got me thinking about how we used to do the forest bathing stuff, which is basically just spending time in nature, because the earth has its own magnetic pole just in general, which is the opposite of what we are. And so just walking on it barefoot has like so many benefits that they have actually been able to prove. And so it just kind of like enforced that whole idea of like doing it to the plants makes sense. But I think it's super crazy of the benefits that doing forest bathing and grounding has. Um, let me.
Yeah, like I even know just from like noticing the kids and I, especially during the summer, because pretty much during the summer we never have our shoes on because we're always outside in the garden, always running around just like in the backyard and outside. So like whenever I'm starting to feel overwhelmed or like overstimulated or frustrated, I'll go stand in the backyard and just like dig my toes in the dirt as far as I can get them in and just stand out there. And I can tell within like 5 minutes my complete mood has changed.
Yeah, it's super crazy. So I wrote it down so I would remember all of them. But so here's some of the benefits of forest bathing: lowers your stress, decreases blood pressure and cortisol levels, promotes relaxation, enhances mind focusedness and me and my word pronunciation, I apologize. Physiological well-being, improves intention, like so paying attention to something. So again, like your focus, mood and creativity.
Wow,
Isn't that crazy?
that is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy, huh, River? Yeah. Oh my goodness, you had no idea. But you do bring up a good point about how, especially like right now, I'm sitting and it's snowing
Mm.
outside. Um, like it's definitely harder to get outside when the weather's not fair. And yeah, and like now it's going to be a lot harder to get out of town to somewhere that's more in the nature. Go take this. Try that
You're
again.
you're just talking up a storm right now, huh? Yeah, you putting in your 2 cents. And so yeah, so not being able to get outside this time of year. Um, and like maybe get out into nature and get out into the forest and stuff. I think that has a lot to do with like people's seasonal depression and they don't even realize or put two to two together.
Yeah, definitely. Like the SADS disorder.
Mhm.
Um, I'm sure that plays a big part in it because when the weather's bad, you stay inside, and part of that is not having exposure to like the sun.
Mhm.
Uh, and like my mom would always call it
Oh,
cabin
hey.
fever, like when we were
Thank you, ma'am.
stuck in the house for extended period of time and started to get bored and uh, stuff like that.
Mhm.
I'm sure you notice that when the kids, like after they've been in the house for a couple days because it's raining outside, they get a little bit more on edge and a little bit more feisty.
Yes. Very much so. um, but so because I looked up earthing and I didn't realize how much earthing actually helped us. Like all of the different benefits that it does.
Mhm.
So, kind of like you were talking about the grounding copper wires. The grounding copper wires, the um the plants are taking in an extra electron from the earth. So that's exactly what our body does whenever we go earthing and take our shoes off and just walk around barefoot. Or they have like earthing mats you can put on your bed and like tie it
Yes.
outside. Yeah. Or they have them to where you could put them in your office chair or like on your lazy boy in your living room. Um and now they even have earthing shoes, which I think were super cool. They like have a copper, almost looks like a little uh, screw kind of in the bottom of your the sole of your shoe, but it just allows the energy to connect to the dirt and then connect to your foot.
So in case you're in a spot that you don't necessarily want to be barefoot, but you could still get the benefits from it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What I thought was kind of cool because like a lot of the places on the rivers around here, I don't like to take my shoes off because of all of like the fishing lines and lures and stuff like that. So that would be a really cool alternative. So it's called a reduction reaction whenever you go earthing, and it causes oxidative stress to reduce in the body. A reduction reaction is taking free radicals within your body and adding an electron to make that molecule stable and can no longer cause damage to other cells. Yeah. So I thought that was extremely interesting because I know we've talked about oxidative stress like before the podcast. Um, and it can cause all kinds of damage from the head to your toes, to the back to the front, sideways and sideways. And all it is just your molecules in your body becoming unstable and losing an electron.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. And then simply just walking around in the dirt, you can stable that out. And yeah, just with a simple free way to help heal yourself pretty much in your own backyard. But I literally have a huge list in my book here about everything that it helps with. It helps with everything from um, helps with aging, like fine lines and wrinkles, helps with mood, improves blood oxygen, enhancing cell function, calms down empty stomach and aids in bloating, regulates hormones, balances blood calcium, helps your metabolism, reduces osteoporosis, all kinds of things, like a huge list. Helps with stress, helps with your heart, muscles, helps with pain. So okay, I while as we're researching all of this out, the one thing that I found out was super interesting. This doctor was looking at people. Um, inflammation problem because like inflammation is a huge issue in the United States right now.
Yes.
And he said that that's why there's such a raise in chronic uh, like injuries and stuff that people have nowadays is because all of the inflammation to these people is pain, and the only thing that pain is just inflammation in different spots of your body.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, because he said it's like your body's natural reaction to tell your brain, hey, there's something wrong right here, is it inflames it and reduces the area to try and protect it and keep it from spreading around if it's like a broken bone or something. Hi, baby. Yeah. But one thing I love was that ground earthing will actually help with um, your immune system. So it helps enhance immune response and speeds up wound healing. There was actually Wally, you crazy cat. There was actually a doctor that I was watching. He was talking about they had like an after surgery clinic, and they took people and had them go earthing or had the mats on their beds, and they didn't need as much um, like painkillers after surgery. They didn't take nearly as long to recover, and they actually felt better faster than everybody else who wasn't doing had the earthing pads on their beds. What are you reading over
Yeah, those earthing pads have came a long ways because I know we were looking at them a few years ago, and you had to like run a wire like through your wall or out your window to put to the ground outside
there?
to get it to for it to work correctly. You have to, ground it. But we found some the other day that we were looking at that actually has um, a plug. Okay, so if you look at your plug in your house, the circle part, if it's set up correctly, is attached to the ground. So the new pads that they have, you actually just plug into that circle hole in your plug-in, like electrical plug-in in your house, and it grounds it. So you don't have to run it through your window or through your wall to the ground outside.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah, that is super interesting. And that's like such a great way to utilize it. That's really cool. Because that was always one thing that I didn't really like about the grounding pads. Cause like I wanted to get one and was like excited that they had it. But I don't like spiders. So the idea of leaving like my window open overnight doesn't sit well with me. Yeah.
You're so funny. I doubt the spiders would crawl through your window there.
Mom, we've seen some tarantulas in the backyard before. So I don't want to take a chance.
You're so funny.
And, uh,
Um, but I do think it's interesting that you were talking about how inflammation and surgeries and stuff like that. But that's like our pain salve that we have, the
mhm.
Golden Touch. All of the plants and herbs and stuff that we add to it and the essential oils are all to help with inflammation, pain.
Mhm.
So again, like once you reduce that inflammation, it brings blood flow to the area, helps reduce the pain, all that stuff. And that's why that goldenrod supports that part of it, which then the side effect of it is that usually it helps reduce your pain.
Yeah. Um, no, and I thought it was really cool because even when like people's sinuses hurt, it's because their sinuses are inflamed and irritated is why that they're hurting.
Yeah. So daddy takes that our golden touch and sticks it on the inside of his nostrils.
Oh.
I don't know if I can handle that.
Well, there's nothing in it that would burn, I guess. Like if you had peppermint or something in there, then I would tell him that he maybe shouldn't be doing that.
Oh, he puts a peppermint oil up his nose too, like, if he's super stuffy, but he also has, some other sinus stuff that from his military days. So, he's always trying to keep his sinuses clear and trying to do it more of a natural way than to continue just taking decongestants and allergy medication.
Oh, so one other thing that I researched is some people were like discussing whether or not it actually does benefit you. This was before a lot of the research came out, but I still think it's interesting to like hear people debate on the other side of our topics. And they're like, well, I don't know about if you like actually gain an electron, but they thought that a good plus from going doing earthing is that when you walk barefoot, you use different muscles in your feet and in your legs than you typically would use. So the palms of your hands and the bottoms of your feet have the most nerve endings of anywhere in the body. And when you're walking barefoot and you're like touching the grass and you're putting your feet in the mud, you're creating new neurological pathways within your brain and strengthening your brain also.
Interesting. Well, I have heard, um so, like, I run a little bit and was training for races and stuff, and that was, like, a big thing that everybody was always talking about was what type of shoes you wear because they, like, restrict your feet's natural movements and stuff. So you'll like, a lot of people were really into, like, those toe shoes a few years ago, got, like, super popular, um, and then, like, the zero drop shoes, so the sole isn't very thick, but it's the same thickness between your toe and your heel, so that way it's supposed to mimic what it would feel like walking barefoot because your foot is hitting the ground the same instead of having, like, a lot of traditional tennis shoes has, like, a wedge almost between underneath your heel, so then your heel and your toe are not level when they strike the ground, they're not the same height under your foot.
That's really interesting. And I've also seen they're called like barefoot shoes or something like that. But the end of the toes, so you know, like a normal shoe, they come up and then it's like a pointy toe on the top. So
Mm,
on these shoes, the toes they're actually like a square. So like they'll come up for the heel and then it's like this huge block area and then it's flat. So like allows you
yes. So that's my tennis shoes are not in here, or I would show you. Um, but yeah, most zero drop shoes have that really wide toe box, which is really weird because, like, my shoe, I would say it resembles more of like a kidney bean because it like goes up and then it like has like a really big arch across the top. Um, but it's definitely more shaped like your foot is shaped to give so your toes can like spread out and grip the ground and you balance better.
So I've also seen like snippets of I think it was Joe Rogan's podcast or something, and they like had a snippet of the a guest that was talking about going to like the Amazon jungle,
Mm.
and he's seen all the people's feet that were like super spread out and looked almost like hands.
Yeah, and like most of those people have probably never worn shoes, or if they did, they were probably like just animal hide that was like wrapped around their feet, which even then, like it's gonna mold to your foot and stretch. So it's not gonna be like the same restricting as like a traditional tennis shoe that we wear.
Right. Yeah, and I remember they were talking about like debating if that's actually how our feet should look, or if that's just how they're like adapted to be where they are. But I think it was really cool.
He's so cute. You just sit here and stare at him all day. So something that I do think is interesting, and you kinda, like, touched base on it a little bit, was, like, how our environment and stuff has changed per se. So, here's some, like, numbers for you. So in the 1800s, only 3% of the population, and we're talking the United States population, 3% of the population lived in an urban area. So
And when was
if you
that?
think about it, like, they're not getting a lot of the interference and stuff with, like, the Wi-Fi and everything that we have here. So they were living more country, very more royal. R Yeah. So they were living out in the country where there was more likely be connected to nature and stuff. But in the year it's predicted that by the year 2050, that the projected numbers is 60% of the global population will live in cities.
Wow.
Yeah. And they'll spend 93% of their time indoors.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I know, in Japan, they have a practice that's called Shinrin Yoku, and it's literally forest bathing. And they actually have, like, little areas and stuff that is set up to where people can get, even if you're in the city, they have, like, little patches of grass and shrubbery and stuff to where you could even still connect to nature and try to still have all those benefits of that by just walking in these little, areas that they had set up, which I think is super cool.
That is super cool. I didn't know that they did that.
Yeah, I'll have to find you some pictures and you can put them in here so everybody else can see what I'm talking about. It's hard to explain, but it's literally like these little forest plots that are just like in town, in the city. And they also have them, um, I can't remember the fancy word for it, but inside of some of the buildings, they'll have them set up. Kind of like how at your high school, you guys had that little glass thing that was in the middle of the cafeteria that had trees and stuff in it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember what it's called right now. But I did come across, they found that the trees release chemicals into the air, kinda like how we were talking about, like, the fungus does, um, releases into the trees, and then the plants use it to communicate, and that their chemical changes lets the other trees know that, like, they're infested with bugs and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So on the same line, they found that those chemicals that the plants release actually is what, like, affects us when we inhale those. That does a lot of the benefits of, like, reducing stress and help promotes relaxation. And so they actually did a study where they had taken, um, they were Harvard students, and they took some of them and put them in a forest and taught them how to forest bathe and do the Shinrin Yoku and be in the forest. And then they took the other ones and they stuck them in a hotel room, but they were able to analyze the air in the forest and find the elements and the chemicals that the plants were releasing. And through using essential oils made by these plants, they were able to take those elements and combine them into an oil blend. And the students that were in the hotel room, they exposed them for 3 days to this oil by diffusing it into the room with the diffuser. And then they did blood work, of course, before and after. And the people that were in the hotel versus the people that actually went out in forest bathe in the forest, their blood work was very similar and it had the similar effects on them. So, I mean, that's pretty cool that even if you like live in the city and you don't have access to nature or you can't have an area where it's clean enough for you to go ground yourself barefoot, um, or something like that, that there's things that you could do, like the teas and essential oils and all of that to bring nature in to help give you the same benefits. I mean, think about it. You could even take some of that essential oil uh, on a plane with you, like super high stressed area. Um, that's something that I would be super interested in trying when I fly into North Carolina in the summertime, is to try to take some of that with me and see if I notice a difference because nobody likes to fly. Well, I should say, I don't like to fly. I don't like to be next to people I don't know. The whole thing is just very stressful to me.
But yeah, that would be super
Oh,
cool to figure out how much it can help not only you, but the people sitting next to you.
you're really quiet there, girlfriend.
Okay, now that our amazing guest is asleep, I can bring this back over here. Um, so if you had like a little lava stone bracelet or something and put that oil on it in the airplane,
Oh, that is a good idea.
it would
I
be
I do
interesting to
have some of
see.
those.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see how it affected you, and then even how it like affected the people sitting next to you that you didn't know. What that they
Yeah.
didn't know what was going on. Um, and like even yeah, flying. I hate flying too. So even just thinking about it makes me all stressed out. But um,
Well,
I've
and you
also
and little Willow Bear flew clear across the country.
yeah.
Like, I was stressed enough about myself, like, and you did it
Hmm.
with a baby.
Yeah, she was 6 months old, and that was like the first time I ever really flew.
Yeah, because I think the last time you flew, you were in my belly.
Well, I had to fly when I was pregnant with Willow, but we just flew up to Portland. So it was like only a maybe a half an hour flight.
Yeah.
It was like just as we got in the air, they went around and asked if we wanted cookies and coffee, and then we were down again. But
I know, isn't that so funny? Because it takes so long to drive there?
oh yeah, it's like 5 hours or something. But I've also been seeing some people talking about houseplants and how houseplants can also affect your mood and your lifestyle in your home because they produce, clean oxygen into the air and take all the carbon dioxide out. Um, I think it's extremely interesting because, like, when okay, this might be a little crazy, but our air filters in our house. So because we have dogs and cats and stuff, it always grosses me out to look at the air filters. Yeah. So before we got most of our house plants, we got a huge um monstera, and we got our big snake plant medusa, and we got lots of other ones that we've now accumulated. But before we had all these plants, the air filters were 10,000 times worse than what they are now. So it's pretty crazy to
Isn't
look
that
at the
crazy?
difference. Yeah.
Well, and, like, even spider plants, like, I see you have one there,
Oh yeah.
they help filter out for me and my words, I'm so sorry, formaldehyde
Mm. Oh.
out of the air, and I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, "Why would that be important?" Like, we don't have formaldehyde. I know I'm saying that wrong, so I apologize to everybody, but that's how I speak. Um,
y-
anyway,
your Oregon
so
bumpkin
but
self.
then I know. Um, I know the other day I said "butter," and someone was like, "What did you just say?" And I was like, "I said butter." And they're like, "Why do you say it that way?" And I'm like, "Well, how do you say?" Okay, so back
Oh.
to the story.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, but, like, a lot of products have formaldehyde in it that you don't even know. Like, in the dental field, like, it was the solution we put in our stuff to, uh, sterilize it because when they didn't have it in there, people would steal it and drink it to get drunk.
Oh my
So they put the
gosh.
formaldehyde in it. Yeah, so it would taste bad and smell bad. but then all of us, whoever uses it, like if you don't have it plumbed right and it has to be ventilated and all this stuff, you're exposed to that fumes from the thing that before wasn't as bad for you, but then now they added formaldehyde in it so people would stop drinking it.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, so then it got to me thinking like, what else is in our products? Yeah, so another plant that is super well, that removes formaldehyde that I was shocked about is the rubber plant.
No.
And, do you know what a rubber plant looks like?
Um, doesn't it kind
So,
doesn't
it
it kind
kinda
of look
looks
like
like
a manny tree, sort of?
yeah, it has, like, a main stem, and then it has big green shiny leaves.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it's also really good to remove formaldehyde.
Hmm. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, like and it's crazy because like, I have a snake plant, but my snake plant looks nothing like your snake plant, and there are so many of them, like, different varieties of them. Um, but have you ever heard it called the mother-in-law tongue?
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's so funny. So when someone called it that, I was like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's like an old, like, wise tale." So then I had to look it up, and mother-in-laws, as the story goes, would make a tea with the leaves of a snake plant and feed it to their son-in-laws to get them to shut up, or
Really?
vice versa. Yeah, that's why it's called the mother-in-law tongue because it, like, makes their numbs their tongue and their vocal cords and stuff so they, like, can't talk. So, they would feed it to the mother-in-law to get them to shut up, or vice versa, the mother-in-law would feed it to the son so their son-in-law to get them to stop talking, like, you know? So, I just thought it was funny, like, how, like, stories come about, like yeah.
That is so funny. Yeah, that's hilarious. And that's hilarious because well, Miss Wally has been chewing on my snake plant. And there was one day she was just like making the weird noises. So I thought it was just like her playing with the dogs. But I wonder if it did that to her when she was eating it.
I don't know. Well, I know spider plants, uh, if ingested by a cat, like, it's not poisonous and doesn't hurt them, but it is a hallucinogenic to cats.
Yeah. Wally had eaten this one almost all the way gone. That's why I had to barricade it in my office because as you can see, it's flat on this side, kind of. It was a big bush, and she literally ate half of it off. And like at night, when you're laying down to go to sleep, she would be tearing through the house. And when you look at her, and her pupils would be a huge saucers.
That's funny.
Yeah, silly cat.
Have you ever given her catnip?
Yeah, yeah, we've tried. But
Is she just too crazy?
yeah, like when we gave it to her, she like was sitting there eating it and rolling in it for a minute, and then she kind of like didn't care about it after that. And then the dogs ate it.
Yeah, I was watching some video and the guy would do warm milk and he would put the catnip in it when he was warming up the milk. So it was like catnip infused milk. And his cat would just, like, go crazy for it, like, slam its whole face in the milk jug or the milk dish and stuff.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. Have you ever made, catnip in your tea? Because we could take it, can't we?
Yes. Yeah. I haven't made a tea out of it before. Um, but we've made a like a stop smoking blend, like herbal smoke thing. Um, and that had catnip in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, like, St. John's wort and skullcap is really good
Mhm.
for that. So you would just blend it in with it?
So like when it had mullein, um, St. John's wort, skullcap, catnip, rose petals, and lavender buds in it. Um, and so instead of like you could roll it up kind of in like a paper and smoke it that way, or we
Mhm.
would just put it in like a tobacco pipe and smoke it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like
I
in
wonder if you did, like, um so, like, I have really gotten into doing these, um, like, herb pouches,
Mhm.
and I just have I don't know where it's at right now, a little, like, cast iron it's supposed to be a little cast iron egg serving pan thing, but I just throw my herbs in it and blend it, like, this is mugwort, um, that I got here, but I wonder if you could do the same thing with that, because you would
Yeah.
be if you didn't want to, like, roll it and smoke it, but kinda did that in a burn it like an incense
Mhm.
and, like, was just by it, because the mullein is an expressant.
Excrescent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's why the mullein is to get all the gunk out. And then skullcap and St. John's wort helps. It ties to the receptors in your brain, like your nicotine receptors. So it like so what happens when you have like an addiction of some sort? There's certain receptors in your brain that get inflamed and irritated, saying that that's no longer happening. And so what they
Mm.
do is go on and connect to those receptors, calm the inflammation, and stop the communication between the two of them so they don't realize like they're not being connected anymore. Um, which I think was super, super interesting. And then um the rose petals and the lavender, they're just there to like make it taste better. Like smoking lavender tastes any better, but I guess it's better than
Yeah,
catnip.
you
Yeah.
would think that was one of the things I was super shocked about, like, you would think as good as lavender smells, that it would taste better.
No.
But lavender tea, like, I made a couple blends with lavender in it, and like, struggled to drink it. It was not my favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things, it's not for everybody, like, it's kind of more of an acquired taste, because when I started drinking lavender tea, like, I didn't really like it either, but, um, now I've kind of grown to like it. It's just like lavender lemonade. I don't know if you've ever had
Mm.
that before, but at first I was like, "I don't know about that," but it actually, like, cuts the tartness out of the lemonade.
I'm wearing off on you and your pronunciations of words.
No.
I haven't had lemonade, but I have had lavender infused ice cream, and that was pretty good.
Huh.
But it was probably a little sweeter because of the cream and stuff that was in the ice cream part of it,
Mhm.
that it wasn't as bad.
Hmm,
It didn't have a really strong lavender flavor to it.
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so we're, like, way, way, way off topic here, but is there anything else that you wanna add in about our earthing or forest bathing?
Well, I don't think we got too far off topic because, like, adding the plants to your house and, like, having them around is beneficial and,
Yeah.
like, can be a step in that process. Um, and then now having the knowledge and stuff of essential oils, you could bring that in and diffuse it, or like you were saying, wear it on a bracelet or a necklace that is like a lavender or not lavender,
See?
lava stone.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but it kinda, like, all rolls together because, like, you could add essential oils and herbs to, like, your food and, like, how you're talking about to use it as a alternative for a smoking product.
Mhm.
Um, you can cook with the herbs and the essential oils, which I did not realize how much you could do with a high quality, um, hospital grade essential oil, that's approved for ingestion.
Mhm.
Like, we did hot chocolate and we added, peppermint essential oil to a toothpick and soaked it in our hot chocolate and made it peppermint without having like, we didn't add peppermint oil or anything to it, like the syrups and stuff. Instead, we just used the essential oil, but then you get the benefits of what peppermint oil helps support. Um, so that was kinda cool, and then now I'm starting to, like, find ways to, like, add fresh herbs and stuff into our cooking more so than using, like, store-bought herbs because I didn't realize how toxic those things were too.
Mhm.
Yeah, they, like yeah, you gotta be careful.
Yeah. No, those are bad, and especially saying, like, they're so you can get, like, the live plants, at the store. They're in, like, in little plastic
Mhm.
bags that are, like, rosemary and thyme and that kind of thing. Um, my main thing is, how long have they been sitting in that plastic, and how much of that microplastic has then gone on the plant that you're then going to ingest?
Yeah. So I've bought those a couple times, and I could never get them to survive. Like, I had a basil and a rosemary, and I went through 2 basil plants. And once I brought them home, they only lived for, like, a few days, and then they started to get, like, really wilty, and then all of a sudden we're just dead.
Well, and if they depending on how long they've been in that plastic bag, it's like they've grown to be able to thrive in that environment of being in that bag, pretty much like a
Mm.
greenhouse all the time, and then as soon as you take it out, it, like, shocks the system. Like, the temperature gets colder, they don't have as much humidity.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
That's a good point. Yeah, hopefully this year, I'm gonna try to grow a lot of our stuff from seed and see how that goes.
yeah. Or even, just going to, like, a local nursery and getting starts because, like, I've had trouble in the past with, like, self-heal and even lavender and stuff because their seeds are so tiny. Like, they're so easy to lose trying to plant
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the mullein seeds are like little tiny black specks.
Yeah. I think mullein seeds are even tinier, though. Those are
Yeah, we had one that was starting to grow off our back patio, a mullein.
mm.
Um, and then it didn't come back. It's a
Oh,
biannual plant, so it should have. But it just did the rosette and then it didn't get very big and then it just didn't come back. But with the dogs, who knows?
that's true.
Speaking of puppies, where did our co-host go?
Oh, he was sleeping, so I went and laid him down in his bed.
Oh,
Yeah, he was all kinked over in my arm.
I know he's so cute.
Yeah, he was pretty cute. Alright, everybody, thank you so much for coming to this episode with us and hanging out for a minute. And I can't wait to see what we're gonna talk about next week. So we will see you all next time. Remember, we do not treat, cure, or diagnose any illness. So if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, please reach out to your provider.
So we are always so honored and blessed that you spent your time with us, and we can't wait to visit with you next time. So please come back and visit us. But until then, go forth with love and intention.